Good evening, everybody. Got both of us here tonight. Myself, and my brother Josh. We're gonna be talking a little bit about the Joker. Now, full disclosure, I did not watch the movie. I actually fully intended to, but then I saw all of the negative stuff online. Literally, people saying, "Don't waste your money. If you like the first movie, you won't like this one." So I opted to not go. You, however, went and saw the movie, correct?
I went and me and my wife went and we had a little Joker date, which is funny to say. You went and saw the Joker on a date, but I guess I went and watched it, and I've got things to say about it.
All right, so
are we gonna just jump right into it?
well, first let's do a breakdown just so people know what to expect from this this playback video if they're watching it afterwards. So we're Joshua's going to give his review. We're going to discuss some of the things he liked about it, some of the maybe some criticisms you have as well. We're also going to do a little bit of a reaction. I got a handful of YouTube reviewers that some I watch, some I don't watch regularly, and just going to be reacting to how much people don't like this movie. Also want to point out the fact that a few weeks ago, The Last of Us Season 2 dropped a trailer, and we're going to do a trailer reaction to that at the end of the live. But before you get into your review, I wanted to bring something up, all right?
Okay.
I wanted to bring up the fact that we have been super optimistic about Joker Folie, like super optimistic on our channel for a while, right?
Yeah.
We have a video, I believe it's a podcast, right? From a little while ago that says like Joker 2 is guaranteed to be a cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah. And it was.
Well, cinematically, right? Visually, I'm sure it was beautiful, right?
Beautiful. And
it was beautiful.
The acting was great. I think what people are getting hung up on is the musical aspect and the story aspect of it.
Definitely the story. From what I've seen, I feel like it's definitely comes down to the story and the choices behind the purpose of the film, right?
So I'm going to say right off the bat, that I loved the movie.
Loved it?
I really liked it. I wouldn't maybe use the word love, but I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I think there was only one part of the movie where it felt like it was starting to get a little boring because we were seeing a lot of the same thing. And then right when I felt that in the back of my head, I'm like, this is getting a little bit repetitive. It was like we went at a left turn and did something totally different. And I'm like, okay, but I'm back in with it. So
now, I do you think it's anywhere close to the first movie?
Yes.
You think it's right there? Now I'm going to say this. I haven't seen it. All I've seen is people's response to it, a very large pool of negative responses. So I can't really back you up on this conversation.
That's fine. I can back my own back.
But
I got my own back here.
I'm just saying, if people watch this and
let me give my arguments of why, my opening statements, all my qualms, and why I like the movie.
All right. Because we're going to call you a shill.
That's fine. They're shills themselves for liking other things. So starting off, they opened up with the Joker cartoon, a little short kind of cartoon. And I think that encapsulates the movie, because this Joker that we see, as weird as it is, it doesn't feel like the Heath Ledger Joker that is in control, is 2 steps ahead of everybody, but it's chaos. This feels like the Joker that is from the cartoons, that's silly, but yet has that mental illness and will like light a bomb and hand it to you and say, here you go, and like give you a gift, and then you look at it and it just blows up in your face. That's the type of Joker that we saw in this movie. And I thought it was really interesting, and I really liked that character, and I really liked
the silliness of the Joker is what you were vibing with.
The silliness of it, because that I think there was a lot of mental illness, and then there was a lot of goofy silliness to it. I mean, that was the movie. It was like way over here and then way over here. It was like two opposite ends of the spectrum, but it was so different, but yet weird. And then they throw a musical number in there that kind of shows us what is in his head. And
now, I talked to you about this a little bit yesterday because you watched it Friday night or Saturday night or something. And you said that although differing from the majority of the opinions out there, you said that although you enjoyed it, you would not want to watch it again.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
Because it was so dark. I mean, like,
what, just like heavy
mental illness, heavy in your head, heavy like suicide, mental illness.
So it just it takes you to a dark place.
Takes you to a really dark place. Like, even I'm pretty sure. So we had the small cartoon, and then I'm pretty sure this was the first shot of Joaquin Phoenix. It shows him like walking out of a cell or something with no shirt on, and you could tell like
that's in the trailer.
Joaquin got back to his Joker weight. You could see he's got the messed up shoulders already for Joaquin Phoenix, but yet he's so skinny. You could see his ribs, and he looks, just that shot alone makes you like, oh goodness, right off the bat by just seeing him without his shirt on. And you could tell by the way he's walking. It's like, this guy's not well. He's been in prison for 2 years now, and he's not well.
Yeah. And, okay. So you're saying it was very visceral, and the performance was very raw and visceral,
yes,
to where you really felt it. Now, a lot of people were saying that it was boring. Did you find it boring in any capacity?
So like I said a few minutes ago, there was only one moment semi to the middle of the movie where I felt like it was kind of repeating the same thing. And because the first half of the movie was kind of just like prison, what's been going on for 2 years, kind of his routine. And then the second half was courtroom drama. It turned into like a courtroom drama thing.
Okay.
And so you went into the courtroom. So I felt like right in the middle before they went to courtroom drama, it was repetitive. We're seeing the same thing day to day, getting to know Harley Quinn, but then it's just the same thing over and over again. And then courtroom drama, and it took a left turn, and it felt like something different, totally different. And I liked it. That's where I have two things I kind of wanted to show you. You can mute these because we don't have to have sound for them. But the second thing was where it kind of took a turn. But I wanted to show this because this encapsulates, and I know a lot of people had a lot of things to say about this.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like the musical or the dancing. Right.
But this,
okay,
right. Play it. Just play it with it. Yeah. This tap dancing scene it shows us what's in his head, but no, keep playing it. Keep playing
it. I gotta stop it occasionally so that when YouTube's looking at our video, they don't copyright us.
So right here where he goes like this, he kind of looks down and does that. It feels like an old-timey, like Singing in the Rain. Like I swear they did that in Singing in the Rain.
Right.
But yet it's like the Joker's doing that, and it encapsulates what's in his head, and it's so goofy but yet weird at the same time that I love it. What do they say? What is this person?
So we got Leo Plays. I watched it Saturday and I really liked it. It's not for everyone though. So I mean, you and Joshua, I haven't seen it yet because look, I'm a person who's like, I'm very busy. I really like to go to the theaters and watch something good. So if I am getting a ton of people saying it's not good, I don't want to spend my time doing it. I'd rather go watch something I really enjoy. So I haven't seen it yet. Joshua watched it. He said he liked it. So I'm glad that you're saying you liked it.
As long as you can handle like the very somberness of it, somberness of it. then you should watch it at least once. But
I'll watch it when it comes out on streaming for sure. So
skip ahead to the courtroom scene.
Let's just say this. I don't think, either looking at knowing what I know about the people who acted in this, knowing what I know about Joaquin Phoenix, I don't think this was just a poorly made film. I think the cinematography looks incredible from everything I've seen. I mean, the cinematography, the color, all the specs, the lenses we went over last week, I think is very interesting. I think it looks good. I'm sure the actors did a good job. I don't think the performances were not well done.
I will say, there was a few moments where I didn't feel like Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix felt good together, but they both had solid performances separately. I think there was moments where they, not all the time, but once in a while, where it's like, this doesn't feel like they are connecting together.
So you're thinking their chemistry on screen wasn't that strong?
Yeah,
that might be Lady Gaga. I don't think she's up to, she's not as good of an actor on screen.
No, I liked her. I almost think it's Joaquin Phoenix didn't act with her good. I hate to say it because I'm not trying to combat what you say, but it almost feels like Joaquin just could not act with her good. Like he can act by himself and play the Joker, but when there's someone else in the scene with him, it's like he just couldn't do it. But this scene particularly is where I was talking about. It took a left turn, and he's represented.
I think I could play this because this is in the trailer. Let me play this. You want me to play it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any of those people that underestimated me also did this yourself. It isn't you. It isn't me. So you don't think this is me? Well, maybe you don't know who I really was.
Okay.
So that scene in particular was probably my favorite scene in the movie because he had a lawyer. He ends up firing the lawyer because she's saying that Joker is not real. And he paints his face up and comes and represents himself as a lawyer. And he plays the joke. It's not like Arthur Fleck is being a lawyer. It's the Joker is playing Robert De Niro as a lawyer is what it felt like. And you can tell it's like he had this switch of Arthur and then the Joker. And you could tell it was the Joker, but it was the Joker playing a different character here.
Right.
And it's interesting. What was
you have to answer these questions. Do you think Harley was using him in a way? She only wanted him as a Joker and not as Arthur. You got to answer that since you've seen it. What do you think?
I mean, of course, that was the point of the movie. They did take some liberties, it feels like, with Harley.
I got the summary of the film, but I don't know all the details because I watched a bunch of reviews.
Yeah,
that's why I chose not to go watch it.
I think Todd Phillips did this. I think Todd Phillips took some liberties with Harley because she's supposed to be, I think the original story, if I'm telling it, if I'm recalling it, she was his psychologist or his doctor in Arkham Asylum, falls in love with him, and then becomes Harley Quinn, goes crazy. Here, she was already in Arkham Asylum because she said she was an arsonist, but then comes out later.
Is not.
She came out later, and she put herself in there because she wanted to get close to Joker, and she was a psychologist, but that still is taking liberties. I think
it's subverting it. The whole thing.
He tried to throw that in there, but he still was taking liberties there. And
there's no reason to approach this movie with any kind of like comic book Joker lore because it wasn't obviously. It was like in the world of Gotham, but not anywhere close to what the actual lore
comes
is.
To the final scene of the movie, which do you know what the final scene is?
Yeah, I do know. He gets killed, and there's a person who's like, "I'm the real Joker." That's what I've heard.
This is what happens, and I think this all comes down to what Todd Phillips has in his head of this universe of where it fits. Because like maybe it's its own thing, maybe it's not where everything is, but he's taking liberties with Harley, saying like, this is what I see Harley Quinn as. But then he also at the end, There's a young guy that was throughout the movie to kind of spoil it for you guys. So spoiler warning. If you don't want to hear this, mute us for like
I already did it.
30
I already
seconds.
spoiled it.
Okay.
I spoiled it for myself.
No,
because I haven't. Go ahead.
This is a little bit more information. He's in throughout the movie. This young guy. He's been in prison with Arthur. He loves Arthur, but then at the end, he stabs Arthur like 5 times with a shiv, and then he takes that and cuts himself a smile. You see him cutting his mouth in the background to like this smile to create the Joker that we know. So as like Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix is like dying with blood coming out of him, he's cutting a smile in his face. And I think that's Todd Phillips saying, this is the Joker that we know. This Arthur's not the real Joker, but he's taking liberties. And I think that's what Todd Phillips has in his head of who that character was, which is interesting, but I don't personally care for that, but I'm going to accept it because that's the story that he was trying to tell.
Well, we can acknowledge the fact that, well, first off, I want to say 2 things. I want to say, first off, Wyatt was right, because Wyatt, me and you were very optimistic about this, and maybe you think it's still great. Jury's still out for me, but with how much hate it's getting, it's pretty much clear that the public opinion doesn't like this movie.
Okay, but I think this might just come down to people have strong opinions about Joker. People loved, as much as there's a lot of people hate, people loved Heath Ledger. And then we had another Joker, Jared Leto, and people hated Jared Leto. Not that Jared Leto was bad of a Joker. They just hated his version of a Joker. And then I think the people, they have a strong opinion about Joker as a character. But
well, I'm just going to say, look, Wyatt was right, where he said it was going to fall. It wasn't going to be, it's either going to be amazing or it's going to be really bad. And the public's view of this, with an audience score of 31 and a critic score of 33, a lot of times those don't match, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like in this case, both match. So it's kind of across the board. People don't like this movie, especially compared to the first one. And it might have gotten more harsh criticism because it's the first one. The first one got a really good rating. Let's see. Joker got a 68 critics and an 89 audience. And so, look, Wyatt was right when he said if it's bad, it's going to be really bad. And I would say this probably quantifies as really bad. It wasn't like a mid sequel. It's like people actively dislike this, right? However, I will also say that we discussed for a while on the podcast, in lives, in videos, that since obviously this is not the real Joker from the Batman story, because the age difference and everything, if Todd Phillips was going to try to tie it in, it would make sense for it to be he is an inspiration for the real Joker. You know what I mean? We've mentioned this, and I'm pretty sure people online have talked about it. I know we kind of theorized ourselves, and I'm sure it's been a part of the bigger conversation, that's going to be the case. And it seems like that's what exactly happens, right? He's the inspiration for the Joker, the Batman Joker, not Arthur being the Joker for Batman.
This almost feels like
this is Elseworld. Also, this isn't like in the same way that Christopher Nolan's Batman is Elseworld compared to the comics Batman, right?
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it without bringing up this movie. There's a movie that Disney Plus came out with about, I think it's like Tudo or something like that. It's the actual story of Balto. And that's weird to say, but it feels like one of those movies. It's like they made the movie Balto, and then years later they came back and told a new movie that was the real story and the real true events of what actually happened when they were trying to tell Balto the story.
Interesting.
That's what this movie feels like. It's like, oh, well, this is how it actually happened in real life. The Joker that you know is just like their version of the Joker. And it's like, even though this is fiction too, I'm not saying this is real.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
I think there's some annoyance online. People like the hidden nature of the backstory of the Joker. And I think when you're trying to tell an origin story of the Joker, especially when you're not being comic book accurate, especially when it seems like it's not really respecting the fans, it's telling its own interesting story where it's forgiven by some, but then when you come in with a second movie and try to subvert a lot of what was in the first one, it's going to rub people the wrong way for sure, right?
Yeah.
It's
definitely different, and I would agree.
At least it was better than Deadpool and Wolverine. Believe it or not, I haven't seen that yet either because I'm choosing to watch that on streaming. But I've heard that Deadpool and Wolverine is a mid-movie. People just loved it because of the fan service and the nostalgia. And it seems like that's the only reason that movie was made, is for nostalgia. Yeah. They want to see the yellow suit Wolverine. You know, they don't give a crap if the story sucks, if it makes sense, because it's Deadpool. You could just say, oh, it doesn't have to make sense. He could just make a comment to the camera, break the fourth wall. And then it makes sense because
and even like that movie
doesn't have to, right?
If they make something that's not like doesn't fit in the universe or the timeline of things, they're like, oh, it's a different timeline. It's different. So this is not the same timeline. It's like, what? You can't just do that.
Right. Yeah. 100% agree. Yeah. This is a movie attempting to take itself seriously and tell an interesting story in the world of Gotham, in an else world of Gotham. So you're going to have a harsher approach when it comes to criticism than something silly like Deadpool, because Deadpool's never taken itself seriously. So although there's been a couple Wolverine movies that takes itself seriously, once you enter Deadpool's realm, it's just all jokes and fan service, and people will be happy if that's what they got. If they got a bunch of crude humor, if they got some unnecessary, or outrageous violence, and they got some funny moments, people will be happy with Deadpool. And I think that's why people showed up. But I haven't heard anyone say Deadpool's amazing. They just said, I really had fun watching it. Like that's all they really cared about. Right. People is nothing prepared for Joker 2 kind of movie is too real for people nowadays. Too real, like what you were saying with the visceral nature of it, right?
Yeah, but also I wouldn't consider it real because they broke up those with the Joker tap dancing going like this. So I wouldn't say real because I know that's supposed to be.
But they broke up the hardness with the silliness.
Yeah, with like a dance like that, and so I wouldn't say real.
All right,
I know it's
let's
go to
let's hold on. Let's talk about this real quick because I want to get your thoughts before we move on. You're a fan of musicals, all right? You're a big fan of musicals. I've never really understood why. I enjoy a couple musicals. I enjoy but you love them. Yep. Your mic's struggling to come through a little bit again. I'm not sure why, but did your love for musicals impact how much you enjoyed this? Because I've heard a lot of people say they hated the fact that it was a musical or it was a cringy musical.
It might help a little bit, but no, I think with moments like the courtroom scene that I said was my favorite scene had no music in it. It was own separate thing from the musical aspect of it, but yet it still had a great performance. Joaquin Phoenix did great playing the Joker that he was playing, and there was some solid performances from him, Lady Gaga, and all the other actors. The guards had a great performance. The guards that were kind of with Arthur Fleck as he's in jail did great performances and were those characters that you wanted to hate, even when they threw him. They made those characters. They did this thing where Arthur's bad and Arthur killed people and that's what he's on trial for. But yet you have sympathy for him enough to where when the guards are like literally taking a baton and beating him in prison, that you're like, oh no, Arthur, and you feel sad for him, but you're like, wait a minute, these guys are actually just beating a murderer, which they should do, kind of. I mean, not be so harsh, but like they're just doing their jobs, and you hate them, but yet have sympathy for Arthur, who's like a murderer. And
so it just takes you in a place, and some people vibe with it and some people don't. And a large amount of people, I think the biggest thing is that people expected it to be one thing, and it decided to basically change what the film was going to be with the second movie, I guess, in a big way. I can't say I didn't see this coming. If you followed the natural train of events when it comes to he was going to become an inspiration for the real Joker, it's like, okay, you could take that a couple of ways. This way that people are talking about doesn't seem too far off the beaten path. But if you thought that this was going to be the Joker for the Batman, then yeah, I could see how that could be frustrating. But there's a couple people, some of the biggest YouTubers or in the movie review space have left their thoughts, and I'm curious. I want to do a reaction to them. So obviously, as previously mentioned, Joker Folie Deux has a 31 audience score currently and a 33 score on critic score, and we knew that the critics weren't liking it a couple weeks ago already from some pre-screenings. But I want to take a look at some reaction channels and do a reaction to their reviews a little bit, or at least a section of their reviews, just to get a feel for it. And you could share your thoughts. I could talk about if it makes sense or whatever. So the first one I want to start with is one of the big guys, Jeremy Johns. Let's hear kind of like, I went to the end of this video because he kind of gives a summary of his thoughts. So let's listen to that.
Yeah, where you could tell everybody skip to.
Click through.
Brain. It's very justified because, well, this is a Todd Phillips sequel. I guess I'm just trying to say Joker Folie Deux is to Joker as The Hangover 2 is to The Hangover. It may have been Joker paint, but it was about as exciting as watching paint dry. I'm not going to remember this one in T-1 day. Yeah, already forgot. All right, so Joker Folie Deux. Have you seen it? What did you think?
Okay, so I believe his general idea is that it's kind of just boring and it doesn't live up to the first one. That's kind of his initial reaction. So you got Moist Critical. I don't think we have to watch much of his review, but the very beginning is kind of funny to me.
Jinkies, that was not good. I had a couple friends of mine see this before I did, and they all hated it.
Maybe you should drink a little bit more caffeine so you have more emotions with your review.
Hey, don't be hating on Moist Critical, dudes.
I know we're gonna get haters, but
no,
I'll take them on. I'll take all
no,
the fans.
bro. I'm not taking on this fella. I respect what he's got going on.
A lot of the buzz online about it not being very good, and I just thought to myself that it couldn't possibly be as bad as people were saying. But hooey, it's really just not good. It's a shockingly confusing fumble of a sequel. Like, the most fun I had going to see the new Joker movie was in the car ride to and from it, because
dang,
I was listening to Warhammer 40K lore on the Horus Heresy, and just listening to that was better than seeing Joker Folie Deux.
Okay, so he very much hates this movie. John Campia. I am not a fan of his. I think he's kind of a shill when it comes to his opinions. I think look, I'm just going to be honest. I think he says positive things about stuff that is objectively bad because he's trying to get pre-screening stuff like that. But Chet, let's listen to what he had to say about this.
Joker 2. It's just some slap together idea for a story because they felt forced to do a sequel because the first one made so much money. This one is just dry and dreary and dull. This movie sucks. And I couldn't wait for it to end. And I cheered the idea of trying to integrate music, like musical elements into it. I thought that's different. That's bold. And I still think it was different and bold, but it didn't work. Like, you take a musical like, say, The Greatest Showman, right? The songs, the musical aspects tell the story. In Joker 2, all the musical numbers just interrupt the story and are utterly pointless.
Okay, he makes a good point. Hearing
that's not a good point because
well, it's a point.
It's a point, yes. The main song that I can think of, not the dancing one, the tap dancing one, that was just kind of goofy. Does that interrupt the story? Does that prove his point in some capacity? No, because it shows the relationship between Harley and Joker, and that's what the point of that song is. The one where Harley lights to spoil it again, she lights a fire on the piano, and in the prison, and they both try to kind of escape together. It's kind of like a musical number as they're escaping prison, or they're trying to, and that is telling the story. That's like the main Harley and Joker song to kind of show their relationship.
Is it building character then? You're saying it's building their relationship.
Yes.
It's building the dynamic.
So I don't think that is.
Let me see if he makes another interesting point, because he brought up a point to talk about.
It is a pointless movie. And then they try to do something cute and clever at the end. I won't say what it was, but that totally didn't work. It didn't make any sense either. I
didn't like it either, really. But
what was the cute and clever thing that they tried to do? Because this was his out of theater review, so he was trying not to spoil it, but he's already talked about it.
The actual Joker killing Arthur Fleck and then cutting a smile into his face.
Again, I don't see why everyone is surprised by this. I feel like we've been talking about this for a while. Now, we didn't talk about how he's going to be killing Arthur and become the Joker, but I was like, it seems very plausible that Arthur is just the inspiration for the person who actually becomes the Joker. So it doesn't make sense to me why everyone is surprised by this.
Characters, I'm pretty sure did you watch Steven Spielberg's West Side Story?
Yes.
I have not looked this up, but I think I recognize him as the kid who becomes the Joker. I think I recognize him as one of the sharks on West Side Story. I could look that up to clarify.
Let me play a little bit of Tyrone Magnus.
Me. Joker 2 was a big old piece of trash. Oh, boy. You know, I was hearing bad things, but I never truly ironclad believe bad things.
Okay, this is where I don't understand. I respect Tyrone. I respect that opinion. And I hear a lot of people say it's the same thing. Moist Critical, he's like, it can't be as bad as everyone says. I'm just like, look, at this point, you can trust the internet like collectively. I'm going to watch the show when it comes out in streaming. But if I'm going to pay, how much was your ticket, Joshua?
$15, $16.
If I'm going to pay $15 or $16 and spend 2 hours away from the house, I want to enjoy myself. So if there is a pretty good chance that this is not going to be a good time or something you're going to vibe with, then why would you take the risk? Like, choose to go watch another movie. A lot of people talk about this and start their point by saying, I didn't want to believe the negativity. It's like, well, it was like universal. The critics and the regular audience weren't liking this. So I don't understand that point. If the audience likes something and the critics don't, that's a pretty good indicator that it might be pretty good, right? But I don't get this. Let's see what else he has to say.
There have been times when I thought a movie was going to be bad from the trailers, and when I went to see it, it was great.
Yeah, I agree with that. But he was referencing the audience's opinion, not the trailer, right? Because when we look at this trailer, I thought the trailer was pretty good.
There were times when I thought a movie was going to be great by the trailers, and I went to see the movie, and the movie was bad. I've seen trailers that are bad, and the movie was bad, and I've seen trailers that are good, and then the movie's good. Okay. That was not the case with all of this. I was concerned about this. We all know this.
All right. So he's talked about being concerned. I think some of his points that he's made was that he doesn't know if it could live up to the first one, which I think he ultimately was correct, right? Here's Desperoo. I went to the end of his video. I think he sums up some of his thoughts. He takes a very comedic and intelligent approach to this because it tries to be an intelligent film. So he kind of breaks down why it's not legit.
Way to prove there that comic book movies are bad, but your real thing to do with comic book, the first movie, by crushing them in the second. You went from something people liked to something people despised, because this second movie is pure Todd Phillips creation. Absolutely nothing to do.
Agree about that.
Anything. Nothing to do with the Joker. It's purely
Todd.
Phillips.
I would agree with that.
You would agree with that?
Yeah,
What,
it's Todd Phillips doing this adaptation of Harley Quinn, of Arthur Fleck, the Joker, and then the actual Joker at the end where he has someone else be the Joker. I would agree with that. But that doesn't make it a terrible movie.
No. I mean, it certainly doesn't, and that's another thing why we've also discussed on the show. It's like you shouldn't expect it to be like. Well, here's the difference. So, like, this is the approach I would take that's different than, like, say, the Rings of Power show, right?
Mhm.
The Rings of Power show has a ton of lore that the fans have enjoyed. That's very established. It's written out. That's thought out. That is built into the foundation of the Lord of the Rings story, right? So when you come in and say we're going to subvert that and tell a different story, we're like, why? The original hasn't been told yet. One, and also it's not, whatever you come up with, it's not going to be as good as the source material. When it comes to Batman and Gotham, first off, comics, there's been a lot of different stories of different time periods of Batman. At this point, we've had a ton of different variations of the Joker and the relationship with Batman and Harley Quinn and whatnot. And so there's a bit more grace, I think, and I think with comics in general, because comics also kind of contradict themselves in a lot of ways. I mean, how many times has Deadpool killed every superhero in the universe? You know what I mean?
I think
It's
it was refreshing because it was something different. And yes, everybody has this.
I think the
sacred
first
thing.
one was refreshing on some level.
Everybody has this they look at Batman specifically and the Joker with Batman and hold it up in such high regards of sacred superhero comics, movies, story, to where if you mess that up, they get mad at you. But this is no different. And I know people are going to be mad when I say this because they love these, but I hate them. Is the 80s Joker that I'm forgetting his name, the goofy Joker that was done in the 80s with what's his
You're
name?
thinking the Tim Burton Batmans?
Yes. They're goofy, they're weird, and
The guy from The
they're
Shining. Why am I forgetting his
yes.
name also?
They're goofy, and I don't like them. If you didn't grow up with them, they're weird movies.
Jack
Nicholson.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson's Joker was weird, and this is definitely better than that.
Never watch a movie with high expectation. That will take away the fun. Look, I'm not again, I'm going to come back to my other point where I'm saying if expectations are built in. So if you are doing a Lord of the Rings show or movie, if you are doing a Narnia show or movie, if you're doing something with source material, you cannot get away from expectations, especially if those foundational expectations are something you really enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And the Rings of Power show like, if you want to just tell a fantasy story that doesn't have source material, you can tell it and you're going to receive a lot less criticism, a lot less hate, probably a lot more enjoyment of an original idea. But if you're going to take something that everybody loves, you cannot get away from the expectations. Now, again, with the Joker, there's been so many different versions. I think there's a bit more grace to show different variations because we've already seen so many variations, and it just kind of feels like if you have an idea, go for it. And if Warner Brothers is going to fund you, but it just depends on the IP we're talking about. So like Arcane, I'm not a gamer, but the show on Arcane that season 1 that's on Netflix, I loved season 1. And I know the show's based on League of Legends, but I don't think League of Legends has not 100% sure, but I don't think it's very established lore, like video game lore. But as far as I could tell, everybody likes Arcane, right? If you watch the show, people who are non-gamers, people that aren't even anime fans, like Arcane is just awesome. And I'm really looking forward to season 2. And I didn't have any expectations going into that. So that kind of, you're correct. Yes, lower expectations can really bring a lot of enjoyment out of something. But you can't just put that across everything because you can't get away from expectations on a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's just a fact, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I think expectations are good in some scenarios, like I said, with like Tolkien specifically for me, right?
I know, but I will say this, and this can kind of end our review of this. We could go to the next thing. Rings of Power. Let's look at that. Not look at the lore for Tolkien. Not look at any of that. Just look at like the acting, the dialogue, and let's say it was a standalone thing that had nothing to do with things people loved.
I see where
Just
you're
look
going.
at the show, and it's terrible. It's
Well,
bad acting. It's bad dialogue. It's jumping around. There's been so many episodes in season 2 that is like, wait a minute, wasn't he dead?
Yeah,
And then
they
he's
killed a
not dead?
character. They killed a
And then he's
character in
not
one
dead.
episode, and then he's not dead in the next episode without any explanation as to why he's not dead. So they're not even consistent with their own story, right?
This is not that way, and it was acted great. It was weird.
The dialogue was written
it was
okay.
good. It showed human emotion very well. It showed mental illness very well. It showed all these things that I think makes it good in my mind. So I'm going to.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm a bit more forgiving of if a lot of people said this was boring, maybe boring compared to the first one, but I'm like courtroom dramas. I'm forgiving. I love some good courtroom drama movies like Lincoln. The Steven Spielberg film Lincoln is like on my top 10 favorite films. And that is a slow movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is mostly just old dudes sitting around a table having conversations and then going into a court and having conversations in court. And I really enjoy that. So I'm a very forgiving when it comes to like traditionally boring movies, because if it's written really well, I can get into it. But
really well.
If it's written really well, I can get into it. But if it's not written very well, then I can't. And you're right. So things like The Acolyte, things like Rings of Power, it's literally just bad. The people who wrote those stories just are not good at what they do. You know what I mean? It is as simple as that. It's not that they're telling a story that's upsetting people. It's that they don't know how to tell a story and make it make sense. That's the problem there, right? And there's disrespect for the source material, of course.
Yeah, I guess it's what people think, and we'll leave it at that.
All right, so
I was going to transition.
Let me do this one. Let me do this one. All right. So we're gonna do a reaction to The Last of Us Season 2 teaser trailer. It's been out for a little bit. I am currently watching The Penguin on Max on HBO, and I am liking it. I really like The Penguin show.
The Joker thing.
So the next HBO show, I believe, after The Penguin, is The Last of Us, I think. Do you review video games? Unfortunately, no, because I'm not a gamer.
Wyatt is our, I guess, residential gamer, which doesn't play video games. He just likes reviews of video games more than any of us, and he's not here, and we don't really get into video games as much.
He'll be here later in a week or maybe 2 weeks, but no, we don't review video games, unfortunately. But we do talk a lot about movies and movie news and stuff. So let's do a reaction to The Last of Us Season 2 trailer. We're going to get into this, and we're going to share our thoughts afterwards, so stick around. Let's hop over there.
Oh, you want to start or what? Let's try something different.
Let's try something different.
You can't heal something unless you're brave enough to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Say the thing you're afraid to say. Say it out loud, no matter what it is, no matter how bad. What did you do?
Ooh.
Mhm.
Ooh. Okay.
That worked. Hold on.
All right. 2025. Okay. Now,
Trailer makes it look really cool.
oh, the trailer makes it look really good. Let's play a cautionary tale, though. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's be
Let's
logical
feel it.
about this. So right off the bat, I got to acknowledge there was a lot of stuff about season 1 I did not like. Okay. I think if you totaled the runtime of stuff I liked from season 1, it might equal about 40 minutes total of the whole season. So, like, in the suspense moments of clickers, right? In the big battle trying to get away from clickers, I enjoyed that. The characterization of most of the characters, including Pedro Pascal's character Joel, including my goodness, I'm forgetting
Ellie?
the character's name. Ellie, yep. I didn't care for any of it. I did not feel connected to these characters, which was very surprising to me because typically I really enjoy HBO characterization and writing. I really am enjoying the Penguin right now. I'm really looking forward to the Dune series on the Bene Gesserit that's going to be coming out. I really like a lot of HBO's characterization and storytelling, but The Last of Us really fell short to me. A lot. It really a big way, right? I was bored most of the time.
I think this was my review of the season 1 as a whole. I think I said they should have done it in reverse, where they showed more character development in the last 2 or 3 episodes and then gave you adventure so that you were invested in those characters. I think the first several episodes we had no character development and we didn't care about those characters. They were just
So the adventure fell a little flat.
Yes, and I think I'm pretty sure that was my review of last season. I would have to go back and watch it, but so yes, we have character development now. So will this be better? Maybe. There was elements I did not like from the first one, but
Now-
maybe it will be better because
Now,
of that. We
going
have our
back-
characters.
Going back to this comment about do we review video games? No, but I have been spoiled. It's really hard to be on the internet around the Last of Us conversation and not be aware of the fact that gamers do not like the Last of Us 2. They don't like that game.
They don't like the
And there's
game.
already been confirmation that the creators are trying to follow the events of the second game in this second season. And so I'm kind of thinking, like, does that mean people are just not going to like the season? You know what I mean? Because if it follows the same thing, there are a couple spoilers that I've been told. I'm not going to say them here if you're not a gamer and you haven't played the game and you don't know. But just from what I've heard, there's a lot of red flags here. So unless they're doing a completely different story than the game and all of the rumors or whatever we've been told is incorrect.
Some would even say if there's a red flag, there's also a green flag, there's a blue flag, there's a yellow flag.
What are you saying right now?
There's a rainbow flag, I would say, in the show.
My goodness. There's a couple rainbows. So this trailer looks interesting. I like the army of clickers rushing the base or wherever they are, like the compound. I like the suspense of the clicking of the watch to try to create the tension, the slow drift into the more what do you call it? The more somber tones to the vibe itself, as that it seems like he's in a therapy session, and then it turns to this lady trying to say, like, tell me what you did. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that I enjoyed the setup of this trailer, but I really enjoyed the setup of season 1, and it ultimately fell very flat for me. People don't like The Last of Us 2 because they kill the main character. Well, you spoiled it. You kind of
yeah, that's why I started laughing, because I read it. So I'm gonna say we have character development for the main characters now. If we keep those characters around, if they deviate from the game a little bit and keep those characters around so that I feel like I'm invested in these characters, I will be more happy with this season. And don't give me like one-off season episodes where they just go show me like Joel or
correct.
Was that his name, Joel?
No. Joel was the main character. We wanted to see Joel
what was
and Ellie.
Offerman's character?
Ben? Was it
Maybe.
Ben?
That was a one-off. As much as
Bill.
as much as I didn't like that episode for other reasons, I also didn't like it not because of like personal things or like things like that. I didn't like it because it was just like one-off episodes.
It,
then it
gave
deviated
us
from the
nothing
story.
to Joel and Ellie's story.
Yes. And to where like I'm invested in certain characters now. Give me these characters, keep them around, and then tell us the story.
They did an entire
a little
episode.
bit.
I think what they tried to do an entire episode to tell a homosexual love story that was an attempt to kind of maybe win an award. It felt kind of like award bait, because if you take it out of the season as a whole, it doesn't play really any sequence of significance to Joel and Ellie's story.
Not really.
It's like in the game, I'm pretty sure that the Bill character, like, yeah, they get his truck and they come across and they find some, and Joel has some backstory with knowing, the compound, or like the safety compound he had built. But it in the show, it played no significant value. So we spent, what was it, like a full 55-minute episode on something that has no significance. And then we have to wait another week because they rolled out one a week to get back to the Joel and Ellie story. So yeah, I didn't care for that at all. And then the other thing, to the point, the killing off the main character, that wasn't the only reason. People didn't like in the game, from what I've heard, that you're now, instead of playing as like Joel and Ellie as characters and following them in the story from the first game, the second game is that you're from the perspective of this new lady who's a villain. So we're not playing from the perspective of surviving as heroes. It's kind of like survival as a villain. That's from what I understand. And so it's a new character, along with the trope of getting rid of the character that everyone's supposed to be getting invested in. And it just becomes a problem. People really didn't like the second game. If they follow the second game, I don't see how logic concludes that we're going to like the second season. A lot of people like the first season. I'm not going to take that away from people. I think it has serious issues, but let's go back to this. The writing is not bad. Like, besides it being very slow, conversations seem legit, sort of. You know what I mean? It's not like The Acolyte. It's not like Rings of Power. It's still a better quality story than those. It just falls flat in a lot of ways. And for me, it was this. It was, you know what I mean? It was just me getting tired, and it wasn't keeping me alive. That's supposed to be a survival story. It wasn't keeping me in it. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah. I will keep my eye out for this, but I'm not as hopeful as some other things that are coming out.
I went into season 1 real excited.
Yeah, real excited.
And I got really bummed out by season 2 and 3. I was like, what is going on, man?
We, at that time,
episode 1 and 2 and 3. Sorry.
At that time, Sunday night was like our, we all get together and watch something. We were watching House of the Dragon, and then we go into Last of Us, and now the Last of Us just it put it short. I'm ashamed. As much as we praise Max and HBO, I'm ashamed of you guys for that season.
Well, look. They could redeem themselves, but again, it still does come down to the creators, and they have a pretty good track record of picking good creators, which is why I'm hopeful for the Harry Potter series that's going to come out in 2 years. However, like The Penguin is really good. House of the Dragon is really good. Game of Thrones is really good until season 7 and 8. White Lotus is written really well. I'm really thinking the Dune show is going to be really good. The Last of Us falls short of the rest of it. So that's it's just one problem. It's a better situation to be in than like Disney Plus, where you have just a whole
bunch of
library of complete turds. You know what I mean? Disney Plus, recent Disney, has just nothing but turds of late.
Let us know what you guys thought of season 1 of Last of Us, and also let us know what you guys thought of Folie et Deux. If you didn't like it, let us know. I liked it, but also if you did like it, let people know that it was good. Tell us why you liked it.
And if you didn't like it, let people know. Add your voice to the pile. I mean, it's important. We should let people know.
I want to hear both sides and why.
Here, this is a point I want to make at the end of it. At the end of The Last of Us, at the end of Folie et Deux, all of this. This is like a big point I want to make. Is look, people remember how you made them feel more than what you're trying to tell them, right? That's consistent across relationally. It's consistent in films. So how a film makes you feel, how a show makes you feel is going to be what you remember, not necessarily what it's trying to tell you. So always look to see how it makes you feel. Like, because that's what you're going to hold on to. Like, are you satisfied? Were you excited? Did it make you feel something you were interested in feeling? If not, and it was kind of boring, or it made you angry or annoyed, like this is going to be what you remember. And so filmmakers would do well to always err on how does it make you feel? And so share how it makes you feel. I think that's valid because that's what you're going to remember about this stuff anyway. And so with that, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Thank you so much. Was it Lior Plays?
No.
Lior Plays?
Just thank you for hanging out with us. If you are here in the chat,
we'll see you next time.